I'm not sure which season it might be where more resolutions are broken. Might be New Year's time, or it might be during Lent time. We are usually very motivated at these times by a sincere desire to make changes in our lives. We see this as an opportunity. And so we look for things that we might do differently, things that we feel need to be dealt with in our lives and maybe even uprooted and thrown away. And very often we begin well, but our experience is after a short time we found out what we wanted to do was a lot harder than we had planned on. A lot harder. And so we gradually begin to waver on that enthusiastic commitment. Very often we never even complete our chosen resolution. And that's when old-fashioned Catholic guilt may take over. That we've disappointed the Lord, or we've disappointed ourselves. We thought we had a lot more willpower, or we disappointed the observances of the church, and so guilt takes over and we feel terrible. Why is that? I think failure to keep those resolutions, it certainly doesn't imply that the person making the resolution is insincere or poorly motivated. I think we're all sincere people and we have a motivation. We really do want to do better. Nor does it imply that the person is not spiritual or committed enough. I don't think that's true either. What the problem might be is that the resolution is way too difficult to achieve. In the enthusiasm to better our lives, we've taken on something that oftentimes sets a path for disappointment and failure. Instead of, making this incredible, difficult change, maybe we ought to be moving below a little bit and move up slowly to take over what we're trying to get rid of. All I can think of is often the expression, keep it simple, stupid. Excuse the stupid, but keep it simple. During these times of Lent and these days of Lent, we might do well to see this time as a way to go back to the basics, to breathe new life into our Christian identity, to make a fresh start again. Lent is that time in the church's liturgical calendar where we are encouraged to reflect upon the great covenant God made with his people. I will be your God. You will be my people. God keeps that covenant. We often don't. The great covenant, that great covenant was often renewed with each of us in the day of our baptism. On the day of our baptism, we continue this covenant, this promise through our baptismal call and promises to be God's people. Later today, several of our parishioners here will be seeking to come into full communion with the Catholic Church. They're going to publicly state that. We're going to do a little ceremony here, and then they go to the cathedral later this afternoon. They've already been baptized, but they want to enter into our Catholic community to live out that baptismal call. And so we're very excited about that they continue to open up that covenant relationship with God. We became children of God and were commissioned to be priestly and prophetic people at our baptism. Lent gives us the time to reflect upon our special relationship with God and with our neighbor and with ourselves. The story that we heard in that first reading of Noah was really all about a fresh start. Despite the devastating flood, Noah and his family and animals were safe because they stayed in the ark. They stayed in the boat. The rainbow was a sign of new beginnings and a sign to all the human race of God's promise to bring salvation to those who repent and are faithful to God. Lent can also be a time to ask ourselves if we are still in the ark. Are we still in the boat? Lent is not about God's fidelity. It's about our own fidelity. God is faithful to his covenant. And he keeps calling us to be faithful to our part of the covenant. We are encouraged to revive our Christian life and our commitment to follow Jesus. And the church offers us 3 very special ways to make our Lent a real fresh start for ourselves. It talks of prayer, of fasting, and almsgiving. Stay simple, I think the church is saying. No matter if you are alone, or you're a couple, or a family, make prayer an essential part of your day. Put prayer actively into your day. This might take the form of praying before and after meals. We're so running around all the time. But what a little simple way to connect again with the Lord. Or maybe it's giving a blessing to each other before going out the door for school, for work, or for shopping. My mother always did that. As a teenager, it drove me crazy. But I miss it today. That little blessing, that little sending God with me. One of the sad testimonials I heard, of course, after the terrible tragedy last Wednesday was a father talking about his daughter was killed in the tragedy. And he was talking about taking her to school every day and dropping her off and talking on the way and talking about what was going on in school today. And he always tried to remember to tell him he loved her. And as he was speaking, he said, I can't remember Wednesday whether I told her I loved her before I let her go. Make that a little thing, Let every day be an opportunity, every moment to say that I love you. We might find that fasting could mean spending less time watching television, surfing the internet, talking and texting on our smartphones. Not that that's bad in itself, but it's a good discipline, a small way of connecting again, because we don't listen in silence anymore. Silence is where God speaks to the inner part of ourselves. It might mean drinking responsibly, eating healthier, and exercising more. Almsgiving might mean buying a lot of things that are so non-essential, material things. Sharing my treasure with those that might be in need. Our Sundays of Lent this year center on that theme of covenant. I am your God. You are my people. There is the old covenant that is made, renewed, and described every time that we hear from the Old Testament. There is also the new covenant given to us in Jesus Christ. We were made part of that new covenant when we were baptized. Christ's covenant is like that of a faithful friend saying to another, I love you for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, for richer or poor. Can we make that same comment response to the covenant that we have with God? Prayer, fasting, and acts of charity are ways of assessing and reviving our fidelity to Christ. The Lord is faithful to us. Are we, in return, faithful to him? Are we in the ark, or are we trying to swim the waters around us alone? Lent opens a door for us to enter the ark once again. Here, from within the ark, we can behold the rainbow sign of the Eucharist, telling us that we are never alone, we can begin again, and we are loved.